All right, it is Wednesday, September 29th. Riggo, we are staring at October. We got 3 weeks of the NFL season in the books. We're heading into a pivotal stretch here for one local professional football team. And with that, here's Riggo.
All right, thank you, Todd. I've got to start as I normally do. Can't go football right out of the blocks. We got to have a little foreplay before we get into the hardcore stuff. You ain't going to believe what I'm going to tell you. Yesterday, had to go to the doctor. Went down there. I'm all done. I'm on my way home. And I decided to stop at this grocery store that stocks Japanese sweet potatoes.
Okay.
Have you ever had a Japanese sweet potato?
Cannot say that I have.
Well, once you've had one, the normal sweet potatoes, yams, purple, whatever, ain't never going to do it again. They're almost like they're injected with sugar. They're that sweet. So I thought, and the last couple times I've gone, they didn't have them, but yesterday they did. But so I pull into my parking spot, and there's a big van sitting beside. When I say a big van, a regular like household van you'd haul kids in, not like a commercial van that
Gotcha.
where you got repairmen that are using it. And it's squeezed all the way over close to the line, right? And so I pull into my spot. I pulled in. I didn't back into it because there were two that were, back to back. So I was able to pull through. And I'm trying to, I don't want to wedge the other guy on the other side so he can't get in. So it's tight. So I get out and my door touches the strip along the side of this van. They put a strip there, and it must be for this very reason, so you don't get your doors
a little cosmetic,
punched.
a little bump out that
Exactly.
protects the paint.
Exactly. So I'm getting out, and all of a sudden I wasn't paying much attention. There's an old man sitting on the passenger side in this car.
What are you doing to my car? Van.
It was Florida all over again. For those of you who don't know about the Florida, you may be new to this. Back in April, I literally backed a car up and touched the bumper of another car and didn't know that I'd touched it because I felt nothing. I thought, okay, I guess I'm close enough. Had no idea. And the owner and his mother come up, or whoever, some young guy and his mother come up. And this guy is claiming that I've bashed into his car. And there's no damage, but, we went...
It's my neck.
De-escalate.
It's my neck.
De-escalate. This old man, he's an old, codger. I mean, I'm an old man, but this guy's really old. I mean, he's old. And he comes around and he goes, "You dinged my car. You dinged my car." And I'm thinking, well, fortunately for me, I didn't call him a hustler because I'm thinking this guy ain't sharp enough to be a hustler. But he's one of those old coots that thinks somehow he's been wronged. And he starts looking at his car, and he's looking at the door. And I said, look, if my door did what you said it did, it won't be there. The door won't hit that area you're looking at. When it opens up, the arc where it swings, you're about a foot and a half behind that.
Don't be bringing facts and math into this.
There you go. So eventually, I talked him off the ledge because, he was getting ready to. I don't know what he was going to do because this was like, I was almost like at this point just to go, I think I'll just go inside, get my sweet potatoes, and get out of here. I mean, who cares? But I decided to, and I was respectful the whole time. Like I said, I never called him a hustler or anything. But it turned out in the way it turned out, and then I didn't think of this till the end, really. But I told him, I said, look, there's no. I said, where's your damages? And he's looking, and I'm just like, what happens if somebody he's got a ding in the door? Then it gets weird because I literally. For that reason, I didn't want to bang my car up, right? I don't want to screw my door up. So I'm sensitive to this, thinking of other people banging in. I'm very gentle, but it actually touched his car. So I finally told him. I said, look, there's no damage. And I said, and another thing, okay? I said, you see where your car is parked? It's on the line. You go over here and look over on your side. Where you at? You see how much? You got about that much parking space where the other line is. So you crowded my car so much I could hardly get out.
Oh, whippersnapper!
But no, that's when actually the facts started sinking in. He didn't have any damage. His car was bore hogging my car. And he kind of went, I said, so the next time, sir, know your facts, okay? Know what you're doing here. And I left, indignant. Because I'm going, come on, Pops. Quit trying to make
pull
dreams.
your pants down below your nipples, sir.
Yeah, exactly. I can't address you. You're too old. And then I come out, and the story isn't quite finished, so I come out, and here, it turns out that he's got a caretaker. The caretaker was probably in shopping.
Ooh,
and, it's a woman probably in her 50s, maybe early 60s or whatever. And I'm going, I'm saying, get back that van out of here. I ain't getting in my car till that van's out of here. And she's going like this, and I'm going like, no, we're not leaving. And I'm going, and fortunately, I walk up there, and I told her to roll the window. I said, I'm sorry, but you're encroaching on this line here. I said, and he's got a real problem with me getting into my van, so you're going to have to, or getting into my car, so you're going to have to back your car out. And so she did. And all of a sudden, another car was backing out over here. Another car was trying to pull in, and everything just stopped. And I sat there for, about 20, 30 seconds. Nobody's going anywhere. Finally, this car starts backing up. The van is too big for the spaces here, so it's all screwed. I finally went out, backed out, went around a different way, and as I pulled out and was leaving, they were still down there. It wasn't right, Todd. It wasn't right.
You got a weirdo magnet.
I do. I just thought the same thing. What is that? I mean, it was botched up from the very beginning. It was preordained, Todd. It's out there. It's waiting for me.
And I know you're the kind of guy, don't start nothing, won't be nothing.
No.
Everybody just get along.
But see, I'm ruled by logic. I try to be anyway.
That's your problem.
And I can be illogical. But when I see the facts, and beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is what the facts are, that's when I become, what do you call it? I become intractable. It's like, no, this is what it is. I don't know where you're going with this, Pops. There's no damage to your car. There's nothing to see here. Get back in your car. I mean, it's one of those type of deals. I have no tolerance. And I bless the people that have the patience. Seriously. They'll go, oh, gee, yeah. Well, I really don't think I don't think there's any damage there. I mean, let's look and see. And then we'll look at my car and see if there's a ding on my car. But I don't think,
Now, is there any chance?
I don't go namby-pamby.
Did you get to?
That's why I'm not a good coach.
Right. Well, yeah.
I mean, I just go, no, that's stinko. Get the hell out. Go back to the end. Huh? Go inside. Do some push-ups.
Any chance did you ask the guy, sir, do you mind if I videotape this? Because I got to prove this to my wife and my daughter, Coco, that I de-escalated this.
I never thought of that, Todd. That would have been something good. That was in the back of my mind. De-escalate.
Did you tell?
But I never did escalate. That was the best thing. When
well,
like I said,
he started
exactly.
something.
I mean, like I said, he was. But it is what you said. I got the weirdo magnet. They just come to the big guy.
Did you?
There's a lot of people think I'm a fruitcake. Starting with Joe Gibbs. So hey, there might be a reason
with this fruitcake.
What?
Gibbs' was famous line. I'm going to be stuck with this fruitcake.
Exactly. But that's what a guy says when he's going through post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm going to be stuck with this fruit. No. You got that all wrong. He's the one that's smelling you. He's the predator. You're the prey.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what Joe didn't understand.
So did you go home and were you excited to tell the story to Lisa Marie and Coco?
I did, but she wasn't. I didn't tell it to Coco. I have to tell Coco. I forgot to tell her.
Daddy de-escalated? Golf clap.
I did good. Yeah, I did pretty good. That reminds me of another story. We used to have, the late Ron Saul and I, this is back in 78 or 79. And we were playing the Baltimore Colts on Monday Night Football. I can't remember which, I think it was 79. Because that was the year.
Still Memorial Stadium.
No, it's 78. We won 6 games in a row. We were really rolling.
Right.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And it was old Memorial Stadium. And we go over there. And it's a Monday night game, and so there was a player, was a backup tackle. I'm not going to mention his last name, but Ron Saul and I's nickname for him was Bunghole Jim. And you might ask, why did you call him Bunghole Jim? And of course, Coco asked Ron about a year or so ago, why? Do you remember why you guys called him Bunghole Jim? And he said, oh yeah, in the shower. Ron, it's like Don Bro told me, 10 years and 10 miles out of town, you can be anything you want to be. That was my backfield coach. And I'm figuring Ron just completely went up on why he was called Bunghole Jim. He was called Bunghole Jim because when he breathed, if a fly was going by, you could just watch it just drop out of the sky. His breath was just like a cutting torch. I mean, it was brutal. You didn't, I mean, and I was on the end of the scrimmage, so I had, the tackle was down there with me, and it was like, oh, no, this ain't good. It completely destroyed your will to resist. You didn't want to play football anymore. It was like it took everything out of you.
Maybe he used that as to help him going against the guys he was blocking. They're like, oh, my God.
You know what? It may have been. I have no idea. It wasn't something he ate because it was day in, day out. It wasn't. It was sick bunghole breath.
I can't
what I'm talking about?
To learn the identity of this gentleman off air.
But that ain't the whole story. Here's the story. So we're playing the Colts, and the tackle ahead of him that was the first, the starter, he goes down. And I remember the coach comes over to Bunghole and says, okay, Bunghole, he didn't call him Bunghole. He said, all right, Jim, let's go, you're in.
Oh,
and
Jim.
Bunghole, the look on his face, it was like and the mouth was open, the green breath was coming out, and he was looking like, he was probably looking at Jupiter or Saturn. I mean, when they talk about that faraway looking.
Me? Wait a second.
Yeah, so he's
We're
looking
on TV, right?
Exactly. I mean, the last thing on Bunghole's mind was going into that game. He checked everything off, and he got down to me playing tonight. Nope, no problem. All of a sudden, national TV, Bunghole, you're in.
This is live ammunition, boys.
I can't remember. He might have did okay, but now the story continues. So yesterday, Coco's on the tennis team. She's like the somewhere. What is she? She's on the doubles. She plays doubles. I think she's on the second doubles team. I can't. It's not important. Anyway, they're on the way, and so Coco and I've been talking. She got demoted. One of the girls that was injured, had some kind of an accident or something, broke some ribs. She finally came back, so she went on to one of the doubles teams, and somebody had to come off, and it was Coco. So Coco hadn't played in the last couple of matches. So I guess, according to Coco, she tells me when I get into the car to pick her up after tennis practice, she could hardly wait to tell me, because I'd been telling her, well, you know what, Coco? I said, I always kind of liked it when you got to sit on the bench. I mean, it's pretty good. You can laugh, have fun, do whatever you want. It's like no pressure. I mean, strictly the attitude of Joe Chump, the guy that I've talked about over the years. And so Coco got into that mindset. In other words, I was trying to spin it in a way, a positive, instead of sitting there going, man, they ain't letting me play, and and that just really upset me. I'm going, now look at the bright side of this. You got nothing to do. You can do whatever you want. You can text people, what the hell? And Coco got into that mindset. And so all of a sudden, on the bus going over there, Coco says, hey, Dad, I had a Bunghole Jim moment today. And she told me it was the very same thing. She said she's sitting on the bus and she's having fun and laughing and giggling, and all of a sudden,
she even bring a racket.
The teacher goes, "Oh, the girl that had the broken ribs was sick and didn't go to school, and the tennis coach didn't know. So all of a sudden, they're down a spot, and she's going, we're going to have to replace with somebody." Coco, you're up. You're gonna play today in her place, and that's, like I said. Coco said that's when she had the Bunghole Jim moment, and it was true. She got all nervous and was all it was the same. And I'm thinking to myself, it is shocking where you go from knowing that you're out of it, thinking that you're out of it, to being in. You've always heard when they talk about a guy that's coming off the bench, a guy that all week, when the quarterback goes down. Or during the game, when somebody goes down, the guy coming off the bench goes in and plays pretty well for the most part. Then he finds out the guy's going to be gone for a game or two, so you're starting next week, particularly quarterbacks. Right. And all of a sudden, it's a completely different quarterback.
Low expectations, yes. Emergency duty, versus I'm the guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened. That reminds me of another story, if we got time.
We do. Chicago
All-Star game. We're playing the Baltimore Colts, interestingly enough.
Well, let's set this up a little bit, because a lot of our audience will not remember or know the fact.
Oh, I was going to do that.
Back in the day.
No, I'm going to do.
You do that.
Yeah, the Chicago Tribune used to sponsor this game at Soldier Field for years. I don't know how far back it went. I mean, I remember being in Minnesota as a little kid, and the All-Star game was being played in Minnesota.
I remember watching it on TV.
Yeah. The last one was I played in the 71. I think it went 72, 73, and then it ended. I'm not sure. But anyway, it was played there. So you go to Evanston, Illinois, and we practice at Northwestern University, and I know we were there for 2 weeks. I mean, we had to go down and scrimmage the Bears, which on the way down there, I'm thinking Dick Butkus, Dick Butkus, Dick Butkus. All I'm thinking is Dick Butkus. And once again, it was one of those deals to find out Dick wasn't going to play in the scrimmage. He's Dick Butkus. Hey. What's he going to do with a bunch of punk goddamn
He's over
kids?
Joe Chump on the side.
Exactly. It was beneath his dignity to be out there with us fools. So anyway, similar thing happened. Somehow, now at this point in time, I'm the first running back drafted. You know, I'm 6th overall. But I'm coming out of the University of Kansas. Nobody knows who the hell I am, really. And then they had, I don't know if you remember, guy, where you wouldn't, I'm not going to go through the whole lineup, but the point is that, and then I got on the wrong, Blanton Collier was the coach. He was the old Cleveland Browns coach.
I remember him.
And I got on his wrong side because me and this offensive tackle, Bob Newton, was laughing in one of his meetings, and he was hard of hearing, and he's one of those guys that I guess he was paranoid, thought we were laughing at him, but his name was never mentioned, trust me. So I ended up being like the third back. I know there was 3 halfbacks, 3 fullbacks, and then a friend of mine who I didn't know him at the time would soon become one of my friends, Mike Adamley, who went to the University of Notre Dame, where we were not Notre Dame, Northwestern. He went to Northwestern,
right.
And his dad, Tony Adamley, had played for Paul Brown in Cleveland.
Okay.
Blanton Collier was a coach. He was the starting fullback, so I don't think there was anything fishy going on there whatsoever, right?
It was all
6th pick
all
overall.
up and up.
6th pick overall. I'm 3rd team running back. Obviously, my attitude was not right.
Mr. Collier.
So realizing that I'm 3rd team fullback. What the hell? Nobody cares. I don't care. This is fine. In fact, once again, I got into the mentality, this is going to be like, I won't even have to shower after the game. This is pretty cool. So we're on the way down to the game, and, we got Jack Youngblood sitting back there. He was one of them. Jack Ham, future Hall of Famers. And there were, other guys, a lot, mostly all first-round draft picks and all this stuff. And I'm in the back of the bus, and I'm starting to think out loud. And I'm going, oh, man. God, we got to play the Baltimore Colts tonight. I mean, the world champion Baltimore Colts. I mean, we're talking Johnny Unitas and Earl Moore. I mean, these guys are, and all of a sudden, these guys who were going to have to play were having their own Bunghole Jim moment, staring out the window, hearing me telling them how gruesome it was going to be. And they went, shut up, Riggins, goddammit, shut up. And I'm going, well, okay, guys. But anyway, I got a little far afield.
Was Mike
there.
Curtis on that team?
Mike Curtis was definitely on that team.
Bubba Smith?
Bubba Smith was absolutely on that team. In fact, I did get in the game, I think for a play or two, and I remember I got a holding call on Bubba Smith. Bubba Smith, and my pass blocking wasn't what it should be. I had to learn that. But yeah,
well,
that was my big moment, the 15-yard. And back then, weren't holding calls years and years ago 15-yard penalties,
yes.
And then they changed them to 10.
Yes, God, come on, we can't penalize the offense too much, Riggo. What fun is that? And they hold on every play, so what are we going to do?
Exactly.
Well, I tell you what, we've talked about de-escalation and
yes.
golf clap on your parking and your traction on the weirdo magnets that seem to follow you wherever you're about. So hopefully that's going to get better. But I tell you who better escalate it is the Washington football team. And this week against the Atlanta Falcons on the road and starting with the defense that has truly, truly been abysmal by any metric. And so, everybody was touting them to be, top 3. Even some of the TV talking heads said they're the number 1 defense and could be for years. And you got Montez Sweat and Mr. Chase Young gonna break Dexter's and Charles Mann's records, et cetera, et cetera. So you had all the hype. And clearly, there are major issues, John. What's your take on this?
Well, part of it right there, I think, is part of the problem. I mean, you have young people in there. Now, there's two Well, the oldest is Jonathan Allen, and what he's in his 5th year now. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I know.
He's in his 5th
Everybody's
year. He just got
25
the
or
new
under.
deal.
He's the only one over 25. I think I saw that.
I think that is correct.
So, sometimes you become a victim of your own publicity.
No question.
And I would guess that's kind of what's going on. I mean, I saw Coach Rivera's post-game remarks, and that's kind of where what he's telling the team. Obviously, he's not going to say anything. He's not going to embarrass these guys. And Joe Gibbs would have never embarrassed anybody. But when they get behind closed doors, there may be a little bit of different conversation going on from the standpoint of as they've been sold, and we talked about this last week. The marketing here was just too good to be true. 2 Alabama people, 1 Ohio State guy, and then one somebody without a pedigree who's
4 first-round picks.
But they're all first-round picks, high first-round picks.
High first-round picks.
So you look right away, and some of the stuff I've been reading about, people that have really went to the third down stuff, as far as they've only, I think, out of how many they had, 15. There was 12 plays that were passing plays on third down, and the Washington only sent 1 blitzer out of 12. So that means they rushed 11 times. They recorded no sacks in the game.
0 sacks.
So that's what everybody's kind of scratching their head about, and rightfully so, because we've already talked about this at the beginning of the year. I mean, now you get into a point, I think, you got to start looking at, it kind of comes down in my mind to two possibilities, or a combination of the two. One is these guys don't have the chops. They are, they've been bamboozled with where they were drafted. They were really more like 3rd and 4th, 5th round draft picks. I don't know if that's the case. I'm not saying that's what it is. And the other possibility is, and this is what they're saying, is they're not playing together. They're not playing together. That to me it's got to be one or the other, doesn't it? I don't see it any other way.
Well, I don't see how. I agree with that's. It's one or the other. And what's fascinating,
and then throw in the fact that maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of them, I don't know. One for sure, I'm not going to mention any names, is kind of full of himself at this point. I would think.
Oh, there's no question.
Read all the press clippings. Comes out of college.
Yes,
a big to do and all this stuff.
Yes, and I was fascinated to see them crowing as much as they did as an organization, and the defense in particular. We're NFC East champs. Strutting around like they were.
Did they really say that?
Oh my gosh, John! The marketing and everything else. But
are the players thinking that?
Yeah, I've seen the quotes and everything else coming off of last year and going into the season.
7-9.
7-9. And you backed into it. Okay.
Oh,
you won
clearly.
100%. And our eyes were not lying, which you were incapable of. So you know what? I think they gave up over 500 yards to Tampa Bay in that playoff game. Their performance as a group, which I was mystified, and it was only because of what you saw on paper, that everybody, and it's back to the marketing that you say, the made Alabama guys, the made this.
It's branding.
And you can't have number 1 draft picks at every position and then also think, oh, they're all going to be great. It doesn't work that way. So your front 4 was supposed to be the absolute 100% stone cold lock. We ain't got to worry about them this year.
Right.
It's our linebackers. It's our secondary. Can Landon Collins recover? How are our DBs or whatever? So clearly, and you're starting to see the finger pointing, the indirect conversation from some of the players, and starting to point and look at was it Del Rio? What has changed? Yeah. So the bottom line is, we've seen some film and some individual breakdowns. Mr. Young is barely getting double teamed because he's getting stoned. He is getting stoned off the get-go. And we've seen it with our own eyes.
Well, this is what stunned me. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt
you. And Rivera, he's kind of talking around him and protecting him a little bit, like you said. And another guy they also are protecting, and they're scratching their heads, is Mr. Jamin Davis. Now, and this is where you got back to his inexperience. He only started 12 college football games, and he was your first pick.
Well, his head's probably spinning.
And exactly. And it's a different speed and everything else. So that's my particular opinion on this situation right now.
Well, what I'm thinking, though, is let's just assume that they are double teaming.
Then Sweat should
99,
be eating, right?
Exactly. I mean, you had 4 first-round draft picks. They're going to double team 1. How does this work where somebody then isn't overpowering or getting in a position to get back and pressure the quarterback, hit the quarterback, sack the quarterback. There's something, and I don't know, then, like I said, I guess you get into the scheme of things, and then, that's just not playing together. But I think it's a combination of things. And what I wanted to bring up earlier was the very first game of the season. You're the one that told me this, because I didn't know. I didn't really pay any attention to this Charger roster. But there was a rookie offensive tackle
first game
going against 99.
Defensive Rookie of the Year.
The defensive, and he never got a glove on anybody that day, correct?
No, didn't touch him.
Now that's shocking as hell to me. But then again, he's young too, but he's got 16 more games of experience than the other guy had.
Well, 0 sacks, and they are in total yards per game, and that was their big benchmark last year. Oh, we were, I think, number 1, gave up the least. Well, now you're 31st, second to last after 3 games, 432 yards a game.
Yeah,
432.
And the Giants would have been over 400 yards had they not called some of the if a drop pass wouldn't have gotten dropped.
No question.
And what I would say a ticky-tack call and a holding call on a touchdown run.
Points.
Plus, they would have lost that game. I mean,
100%.
That's where you kind of look. That's one of those things where you look and you go, you win a game like that, and thank God you win that game. Otherwise, this team's sitting there at 0-3, just like the Giants.
For not a questionable call on the final play of the game, they're 0-3.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Points per game that they are giving up, they are 29th at 31 a game. Yeah. So third down, they can't get off the field. This is on pace right now to be an historic worst. I mean, they were once again 60% against the Bills, 9 of 15, and this is the worst third down defense.
Yeah, there's where you go right
of the
there.
last 2 decades since San Diego Chargers in 2011 that were at 49% on third down. This is already at 60.
Yeah.
So
and that's where this thing's headed. What I was going to say is last year they had a lot. They had all these stats, but they were the type of defense where in the big moment on third. I don't know what their deal was on third down, but it seemed to me that there were crucial times when they got soft. And so, but their stats looked great, but there were moments where they didn't really get it done when it really crunch time. They're not very good in crunch time for sure.
And they're terrible at the beginning of the games. They start off terrible,
and then the second half
they rally late in the second half or whatever, where the stats get bigger. And remember, you won 7 games last year, okay? And I was just mesmerized only based on if you sat there and you truly watched the games. And this is where a lot of the NFL play-by-play announcers, as we know, and we know almost all of them, they come in, they do the flyby, and they're going to tell you how wonderful everything is based on all the marketing, the packets they get, and a little bit of film that they watch. And that's what was happening with this particular team. It was all about the hype and what they wanted to believe, these 4 young, talented players. There is time, okay? There is time. But there's not a lot of time, because here's the reason why. You go down to Atlanta, and then murderer's row of your schedule. You have the second hardest schedule in the league the rest of the way right now. The New York Giants, I believe, are number 1.
Philosophically, yes.
John, through 3 games, New Orleans, Kansas City, Green Bay, Carolina.
Kansas City's lost 2 games in a row.
Okay, but do you? Yeah, you look. Listen, now that's a great
Half
2-game
empty,
loss.
half full.
That's a great 2-game loss team versus a 1-2 team that should be 0-3.
True. They won the Super Bowl last year.
Won the Super Bowl.
They did get flogged, but that was beyond their control.
And some of the teams that we looked at the beginning of the year that are 3-0 already include Carolina, Denver.
Yeah.
And so your next 9 games that I went through, this is unbelievable based on through 3 games, which is early. So you better take care of business down in the ATL. Or we're going to have a lot of free fall Sundays here to play golf, check out the foliage, and
yeah, they're starting to change, by the way. I already saw a sycamore tree. They're the first to go.
Timing.
Sycamore trees are always the first to go. They're starting to get a little yellowish, a little brown. Well, it's interesting, too, because I haven't paid much attention to Atlanta. In fact, I haven't paid any attention to Atlanta. But they have a quarterback that he can play. Hell, he was the MVP one year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got – but I don't know anything about him, as far as their offense and who their weapons are. Julio Jones ain't even there anymore,
No,
right? Yeah, he went down the road.
They're a hot
But they
mess.
always talk about how he was always injured, so maybe they're better off. You say they're a hot mess?
They're a hot mess, and
then I guess you'd have to say Washington's a hot mess.
But they did beat the Giants. They eked that out last weekend.
Yeah.
But that's just it. They are both in the lower thirds on the power rankings.
Fourth game
right
this
now.
year, and you got a must-win game.
100%.
I see that.
What do you think the line is? Did you check? Did you look, John?
No, I did not. You know I don't do that, Todd.
You were tipped off last week.
Huh?
But that was Zach, Hannah's boyfriend.
Yeah, that's true. He told me exactly what. So I was in the ballpark. I might have been able to come up with that line. I don't know. I've been doing pretty good on my own though.
Now that
I'm going to guess it's close to a pick 'em, or is Atlanta like a -1?
It is Washington minus 1.5.
Minus 1.5.
Now, conversely, the Buffalo started out at 9.5.
Right.
And people are like, oh, that's way too big. That's way too big. And they got bet down all the way to 7.
They were a steal at 7.
They were a steal at 7. And boy, when it was 21-0, you were feeling real good. So this is theirs for the taking, and a team that has very much got some things to correct here, including one Mr. Heineke, who, he demonstrated why he was a backup quarterback in the Arena Football League
why he was
a year
for
ago. And we'll see what he's got, if he's going to grow, and because he's making a lot of mistakes that a veteran quarterback in this league would not make.
Well, and think about this. Now, I don't. He's an extremely smart guy. Obviously, he's a mathematician, and
we like him.
The story I read about him, his professors were saying he's got
super smart.
He's super smart.
Joe Gibbs.
But that'll take you to a certain point. Then there's that emotional element of it, and I think that's the part that he's got to work on a little bit more, because according to the coach Rivera, he felt like and this is what happens to people so many times when things aren't going well, is you horse it, and that gets you into. I mean, sometimes horsing it works out, but I think most of the time it blows up in your face. And I think that he feels like he's got to, be Superman somehow. And there was those moments, where he made a couple bad decisions, and he did it at the end of the Giant game. He was one that to me is a scary. That's a scary thing about him as your quarterback. And I'm not talking about the pick so much, because I think that was one of those deals where maybe he telegraphed it, but that DB just seemed like he stepped in.
Play.
Yeah, he stepped in from out of nowhere. But then again, he'd been picked on quite a bit. So maybe he kind of, it was with McLaren was the guy that was supposed to get the ball, and I can forget 24, I think it was his number from the Giants. His senses told him he's going to go back to my guy, and he's been burning me all day long. He stepped in and makes it. But what really scared me was that fumble that was at the end, which was made no difference because there was a penalty on the play and it was against the Giants.
Right.
That was like loose cannon stuff. You can't. The game was on the line. It's like he may be one of those guys.
He had some bad turnovers. He had some bad turnovers against the Bills.
What's that?
He had some bad turnovers against the Bills.
Well, that's why I'm saying that fumble against the Giants is pretty telltale to me. It's like they used to say years ago about one of our coaches, although he's a player, because he was so excitable and do this. They said you don't want him, handling nitroglycerin. Don't keep that away. Do not let him defuse any bombs. He's not going to be one of those guys. He's not cool.
You got Bunghole Jim and Nitro John.
Maybe they were talking about me. I don't know. I don't think they were. Because I was always over there. I was like Bunghole. I want to be on the bench too. Can't get hurt over here. Yeah, go ahead. See what you can do. I'm safe on the sideline.
This is a big weekend.
It's huge,
and this is humongous in my opinion. So let's see what they got. 1 o'clock down in the ATL this Sunday. Now, John, really happy to hear that you in your COVID recovery.
Mm-hmm. I'm coming back.
And our guy Dexter, he had and a lot of folks throughout this country. So we want everybody to continue to be safe. But this is breaking news, and this just came down earlier today.
Came out today?
Today, as we like to do on TJRS with some breaking news. Dateline Tokyo, Japan. Now, I've about had it with COVID. COVID, in my opinion, has now crossed the line. So an elderly Japanese man, after catching COVID, has been diagnosed with restless anal syndrome, and the doctors claim this is a world first. And the unidentified 77-year-old man from Tokyo
restless
Medical, restless anal syndrome, and that he was in the hospital for a short period of stay, and he did not require oxygen, and he was breathing normally after 21 days, but now he's got a problem, and he's got the essential urge to move, and apparently he can't sit still because of the restless anal syndrome, and that he has to move, because if he sits for any prolonged period of times, he's got a problem. And
what's the problem?
Actually is,
what's the problem?
So it's actually a neurological condition that's off of restless.
It's real?
It is 100%.
But I thought
real.
You said it's the first time ever.
It is it's their first diagnosis based on COVID.
Oh, but this isn't
an offshoot of COVID.
Oh, okay. This is like a, what do you call it, a comorbidity, or
Yes.
I don't know if that's exactly what you'd call it, but something like that.
So it's part of the restless leg syndrome you've heard of.
Is that where people got to shake their leg up and down?
Their legs all the time, and it's a neurological condition. Uncle Jerry.
Uncle Jerry's got that.
100% candidate.
Yeah, that's him.
Now, they did not identify this 77-year-old man that was mid. Got to see whether
there's
Uncle
a lot of ways
been.
You can go with a restless anus, and what is it called? Restless anal
syndrome. Dr. Nakamura said COVID impacted the patient's nervous system, and I'm not sure fully understanding how this grew into this situation. So they couldn't figure it out at first, and then they diagnosed it because he could not sit still. Going to the bathroom was terrible, and they said it's the area between the perineum and the that area under there, where that area. And
that's
the area,
also in what do you call it? Street parlance. That's also called the taint. But that would be speaking to
Dr. Riggins with the clinical diagnosis.
Right?
Yes,
yeah,
the
exactly.
clinical diagnosis, and he had deep discomfort. The gentleman, he couldn't sit still, so he actually is in the best shape of his life now because he's had to run and walk.
Can he sleep?
No, sleeping was problematic. So they finally have diagnosis and got him some drugs to provide some relief while they continue. So they basically put him on it's a neurological drug that also helps with anxiety and other things to calm down the anus.
I think they should fly him into Afghanistan because I think they're picking poppies. No, poppies are back in May. I just heard that. I didn't know that. That's where they're starting to make all the opioids. You got to help me out on this, though. What actually happens when a person gets the restless anal syndrome? What happens? I mean, are you in pain? Are you itching?
Yes, it's itching. It's pain. And they said it's like a sensation that won't stop in that particular region, and the discomfort is so overwhelming by sitting or being in one particular place. It's not hot per se. It's not a hot zone. But the only way that it kind of calms itself down and isn't... I'm
going to go out on a limb here. Would he happen? Is he gay, or did they say anything about that?
Had nothing to do with his
sexuality. Now, if it was me, and I think I would consider becoming gay, because I'm thinking, never know, could help. It might be better than drugs. I have no idea. Give it a try.
And you know what? I think Riggo really is out.
Yeah, I think for sure. We're going to close it up with that last comment, and we'll see you next week. Riggo out.